Good afternoon. The time has just gone past 12 o'clock. And if you are in Cape Town, you would have heard the noon gun. It's very interesting because my office is about, let's say, a kilometer away from the Signal Hill noon gun. And whenever I'm working, I always hear the gun go off. And sometimes it disturbs your rhythm in what you're doing, but at the end of the day, it's a quick reminder to tell you what time of day it is. So welcome everyone, those who are joining us live. Today's webinar will deal with the issue concerning child custody, child maintenance and divorce, live Q&A. We are inviting anybody to pose any question regarding the topic, child custody, maintenance and divorce. You have to be streaming on the Advocate Mohammed Abduroaf page. A quick way of getting there would be going to www.abduroaf.co.za/live. Automatically, there will be a redirect link taking you to the correct Facebook page. So if you are on those pages, feel free to post a comment, a legal question, and I will try my best to answer it. I am looking at the Facebook page, so if you are online, please go ahead and do what you would like to do. Many people find it difficult and quite expensive to ask legal questions relating to these specific topics. These are very serious topics. Matters concerning children are very, important to be dealt with correctly. You do not want to do any guessing games. So if a child must be cared for by the father or by the mother, if maintenance must be paid, regarding divorce, custody issues, guardianship issues, relocation, passport application, minor child surname changes, and so on. These are important issues. And a child is only once a child, and we would like to give our children the best possible lives possible. Other issues, other legal issues relates to commercial issues, for example, people owing you money and so on. But that doesn't, I would say, can always be fixed later on with the payment of money, damages, and so on. But when it comes to children, we would like to make sure that the child's best interest is all the time, adhered to. The general topic that comes to my office is child maintenance, where people want to know what can I do where the other party does not pay adequate maintenance. So that comes more to my office than the other issues. The other issues secondary to that would be child custody issues, where the parents cannot come to an agreement regarding visitation rights and so on. So there's a lot of those issues that come to my office. And then there are the fringe issues, or the issues that does not necessarily come too often, but it does make its way to my office at least maybe once a month and so on. And that relates to, for example, guardianship issues, maybe relocation issues, where a party now wants to leave South Africa and relocate to a different country. New Zealand, Canada, the United States, not so much anymore. The UK, yes, we get some of those type of queries as well. So that's what makes it the way to my office, where people have those type of issues and disputes. As stated early on, feel free to leave a comment on the Advocate Mohammed Abduroaf Facebook page. The quickest way of getting there would be to go to www.abduroaf.co.za/live. So let's deal with maintenance first, because the topic deals with that. Child maintenance is an obligation which all parents have to fulfill. The poor little one, the poor little child, cannot be involved in that dispute. And what does maintenance get used for? It gets used for, food, of course, clothing, accommodation, education, medical expenditure, extramural expenses, pocket money, traveling expenses, and so on. So maintenance has a very broad definition. It does not only apply to food and clothing. It can apply to things which you do not really think about. For example, let's say extra tuition. That could apply to maintenance as well. So the party might be paying school fees that comes to X amount of money per month. but then the child is struggling with school, and the parents are now expected to pay additional maintenance, dealing with aspects regarding additional tuition. A child might be involved in extramural activities, for example, swimming. So the court might make an order stipulating that you have to pay maintenance for the child's sporting expenses, but here all of a sudden the child keeps on requiring new goggles. That also falls under maintenance. So maintenance is not necessarily a fixed amount like money. Where you say I'm paying 1,000 rand per month, I'm paying 2,000 rand per month, I'm paying for the school fees, I fulfill my obligation to pay maintenance. That's not how child maintenance works. Your obligation is what the child requires. Your obligation is not a fixed amount of money. So if the child requires less support at a specific time of the year, then your maintenance becomes less. So during lockdown, there might be less traveling expenditure, extramural activities might have been halted. If that is the case, then your maintenance obligation is no longer that 1,000 rand per month, it would be less. But unfortunately, because parties can't come to an agreement, these type of matters goes to the courts, and then the courts will have to make a decision regarding what is best for the child, and they come to with a global amount, like a round figure stipulating, okay, pay maintenance for the amount of 500 rand per month, 1,000, 2,000, and depending upon the needs of the child, it could be any amount. Because it's a dispute. But the actual obligation is not a fixed amount, which the maintenance courts makes. The actual obligation is what the child specifically requires at that specific time. As stated earlier on, if you have any questions you want to discuss or ask me questions regarding child custody, child maintenance, and divorce, please feel free to post it, and I'll try my best to answer it. So we dealt with a lot of webinars and videos dealing with the aspect on how to apply for child maintenance. I think by now, if you have that question, you're a first-time parent, the other party is not much contributing towards the expenses of the child. The simplest answer would be go to the nearest maintenance court in your area, and they should be able to assist you. I'm not dealing with that process today. I'm dealing with more in-depth answers regarding child maintenance. So how does a court, or how should a court look at the issue concerning child support if one parent is saying, I can no longer afford to pay child maintenance? Now, if a parent says I can't afford to pay child maintenance, the full amount, I start frowning, because then my question is, how much the child now eat and live? And you are the parent of the child, you made the child. Don't expect the mother or the other parent to care for the child now 100% because you now, have less money. Are you telling me that you are going to stop eating as well and going to pass away and die in a few weeks' time because of hunger and only having water to drink? If you are going to have food in your stomach for the next few months, make sure that your child also has food in the stomach for the next few months and going on. So I frown upon someone coming to my office, because they don't necessarily come to my office. They sometimes leave comments on our blogs or on Facebook, or they WhatsApp us, asking the question, I cannot afford to pay child maintenance. What do I do? And if you read in between the lines, they do not want to pay any child maintenance. I frown upon that, because how does a child have to survive? I mean, the child is an innocent person. He came into this world by both parents. They made the child came out in this world, and the child requires a care for both parents too, for his or her survival. If the parent comes to me with a question regarding, I lost my job, or I'm earning less money, and I am unable to pay as much as I used to pay in the past because of these specific reasons, I'll try my best to keep paying what I have been paying by selling my cell phone, by selling my car, by selling some of my watches, my clothing, and so on. I'll keep on doing that and keep on selling items. I'll keep on, going around asking people if there's any odd jobs I can do to earn a 500 rand here, 100 rand there, a 10 rand here, whatever the case may be. And I'll keep on doing all those things, but at the end of the day, I will not be able to earn as much as I have been earning while I was working for a boss. That is a reasonable way, to have a discussion with him or her. Under those circumstances, I would advise a client, okay, please just work out properly your assets, your income, how much you can afford to pay towards the child maintenance of the child. Work it out properly and then present that to the maintenance court in an application for reduction of child maintenance. But at no point do you stop supporting your child. Because if you expect him to have food in your stomach this evening, make sure that your child has food in his or her stomach the evening as well. If it means that you must only have 2 bites of food, make sure your child should also have 2 bites of food, whatever the case may be. So my approach with these type of matters are I take no nonsense when it comes to child maintenance. You have to make your best, try your best, and do your best to support your child. I am very reasonable. I understand that life comes with its challenges. Sometimes you do not earn as much as you used to earn. Sometimes the lockdown comes, you get retrenched, as the case may be. But you need to know that you have a legal obligation, ethically and morally, to maintain and support your child. That's very important. If you are going to have clothes on your body, your child must have clothes on his or her body as well. If you're going to go and entertain yourself, going to the movies, have a cell phone, have data on your cell phone, as the case may be, make sure that your child is comfortable as well. Because I cannot understand how can a human being eat food, takeaways, McDonald's, Kentucky, whatever the case may be, and at the same time knowing that the mother or the other parent and the child is struggling to put food on the table. So that's the ethical and the moral aspect of it. So your obligation does not necessarily deal with what the court ordered you to do. Your obligation is what is fair and reasonable under the circumstances. But if a party does come to my office or come to our blog and ask a question, I really cannot afford to pay child maintenance, then I'll say, sell whatever you have. If you own a pair of shoes worth 500 rand, 200 rand, 300 rand, and you have to sell the pair of shoes for 20 rand, and you have another pair of shoes, sell the pair of shoes for 20 rand and give that money to the child. When paying child maintenance, you don't only consider your income, you consider your means as well, whatever assets you have. So if you own a car, you sell that car, use Uber, walk, get a bicycle. I'm saying this because a child requires, but if the child has enough food on the table, has a proper education, the child school fees are paid for, and so on, you're adhering to the maintenance order, then do whatever you want to do. You don't have to sell your car. You can enjoy your life. But if the child will be prejudiced by you deciding to live the life you always used to live, and the child will be losing out and getting what he or she did not sign up for. You and the mother made the child. And I'm referring to both parties here. I mean, sometimes the father has custody and the mother has to pay for the father maintenance. So whatever the case may be. As I said earlier on, if you have any questions, click on there and just post your question and I'll try my best to answer it. If there are no questions, that's also fine. I'll continue with the topic. So let's move on from child maintenance. The maintenance court should be able to assist you regarding that. Let's deal with the issue concerning child custody. So there is a difference between child custody and guardianship rights over a minor child. People tend to confuse the two, mix the two up, presuming that the term primary care refers to guardianship rights, or they do not understand that there is a concept called guardianship rights over a minor child. So guardianship rights deals with the legal aspects of a child's life. Nothing to do with visitation or seeing your child. For simplistic terms, it means, let me give you an example. So only a guardian can consent for the minor child to leave the Republic of South Africa, to apply for a passport, sometimes for serious operations, for a minor child to purchase immovable property. Immovable property means like houses and so on, flats, etc. So a guardian's consent is required for that. it has nothing to do with day-to-day activities of the child's life, like seeing the child, taking the child on holiday, birthdays, Mother's Day and Father's Day. So those are guardianship rights. So a parent will come to my office and say, I'd like to have primary care, sole custody over the child. He or she is already exercising that primary care over the child because the other parent is not much involved in the child's life. So that specific parent is in sort of searching for guardianship rights, sole guardianship rights. And with that sole guardianship rights, that specific parent will not need the other parent's consent to relocate, to go overseas, apply for a passport, should a minor child want to buy immovable property, certain operations, and maybe schooling as well, where some schools might ask, how do I, ask where is the father of the child, because he's a co-guardian, his name's on the birth certificate. We have a question on Facebook Live. Let me get to it quickly. We live in George. Last year, December, January, my husband's son visited from Johannesburg. He is 6 years old. The person might want to add some additional information to that question. I do not want to guess what the question is. So that specific person that has posed that question, please add additional information or pose a question to those specific facts. And if you are watching this video live, feel free to pose a question on Facebook Live. If you're on a different platform, if you're not on the Advocate Muhammad Abduroaf Facebook page, please go to www.abduroaf.co.za as on the screen /live, and it should take you to the proper page to watch this video and pose a question. So the person goes further, say, we live in George. Last year, my husband's son visited us for December, January holiday. This year, his ex-wife didn't allow him to see his son and used COVID as an excuse. She said he can see his son this year, December or January. Okay. Now she said it's her Christmas. He saw his son 6 days this year. Can she do this? I would most probably require some background information. Is there a court order in place? Are the parties divorced? And so on. Is there a parenting plan stipulating who should have the child and who should not have the child? If the court order specifically states that this December is this parent's contact and the next December is the other parent's contact, because I'm seeing the parents here live in two different cities. One live in George and I presume the other one was probably in Johannesburg. It complicates matters a bit, and COVID-19 coming into the picture, it complicated matters much more, because at the start of the lockdown, the minister made a regulation stipulating that there's no movement of kids during the lockdown. Then they changed it and said there can be movement if you have a parenting plan or a court order. And then they changed it further and they said if you have a birth certificate and so on. So they complicated matters a lot. And obviously, because we're dealing with George and in the Western Cape and Johannesburg, meaning a different province, contact would obviously have been much harder because there was no interprovincial movement of people for the most part of the start of the lockdown. So if there has been a court order and a court order specifically stipulated that contact for the one parent is in December and the contact for the other parent will be the next year, I would say my quick answer would be that court order needs to be followed. And I would say, unfortunately, it is these specific parents that cannot see face to face. Unfortunately, it's clear like as daylight, they have these type of issues. It's unfortunate for the one parent I can't say that he can now enforce his rights. He can now make up for the contact time he didn't see, because the court order says that December 2019 will be with the mother or the father, and 2020 will be with the mother or the father, as the case may be. The court order have to be adhered to, and unfortunately COVID-19, the lockdown, was a spanner in the wheel. It messed up everything. So whoever had the child more of the time because of the lockdown, it doesn't mean he or she will have to now forfeit specific time by default. It would be wonderful if these parents can agree upon that. But if they cannot agree upon it, that's where I'm coming from. If they cannot agree upon December holiday and there's a court order in place, It's not for the police officer to, to play judge here and say, okay, ma'am, I am now making my own regulations over here, and I'm stipulating that just because you saw the minor children during the December holiday, during the lockdown period for more than the father, despite the court order, I'm now saying the father can have contact. That's unfortunately, not how it works. The relief the Pacific person has here is to approach the children's court, wherever the court order was made, and approach the court and tell the court, I did not see my child at all this year, much. I only saw him or her for 6 days. I would like to have contact with my child during the December holiday period, but the mother is now refusing me, or the father is refusing you. I can't remember now. Is refusing me contact. I feel it's reasonable, and I do not want to violate the court order. Please relook this matter and allow me contact to the minor child during the December period, because I only saw the child for 6 days during this year because of COVID-19, because of the lockdown. Then I would say the court more than likely will grant you that specific rights. But because you're living in Cape Town and the child lives in Johannesburg, or vice versa, there will just be too much chaos, too much problems. And if the other parent is refusing you contact now already, I do not know how you're going to get that other party to agree upon that, firstly. And secondly, if they will not agree upon it, the court will have to get involved. So that's that. Hopefully that answers that specific question. If there is no court order in place and no parenting plan in place, then it makes it much more harder. I would advise that other parent who is struggling to have contact to approach the court as soon as possible. As stated earlier on, if you have any questions, please go to the Advocate Mohammed Abduroaf Facebook page. Please like it if you would like to do so. If you are on a different page, the Our Lawyer page, private legal, and so on, or various groups, please go to www.abduroaf.co.za/live. There will be a redirect link taking you to the relevant Facebook page. Where were we? Child custody issues, guardianship rights. So that's where the legal aspects of a child's life gets regulated by the issue concerning guardianship rights. I ended off early on, when a child applies to school, the parent might be asked, ma'am or dad, whoever is applying to the school, we see that your child, on his or her birth certificate, it stipulates that he's a father, and we presume he is a co-guardian of the child. We would like to have his consent. If the other parent cannot provide the consent, they might say, we're not, affording you, we're not affording you any admission to the specific school. If that is the case, of course, that parent's consent is required because he's a co-guardian over the child. I think we dealt with that aspect concerning child custody, and I think at the next video we can deal with the aspect again. Then there's divorce issues. Divorce issues are very complicated issues, and I think we ran out of time now. Yes, we are at 25 minutes. These videos are only made for 25 to 30 minutes. If you have any further questions, we are having another live webinar soon, and we hope that you can partake. Thank you very much.